Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Lianas Senior Transition Support, helping you navigate home care and senior residences.
And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, elder care planning, and the senior living industry. Welcome to our segment called Helping Moms and Dads. We do this on the second half of Life Unrehearsed every week, and we like to provide guidance and support to the sandwich generation. You know, you might have your parents to be concerned about, your own kids to be concerned about as well. Your plate is full, no doubt, and we try to bring on some interesting and knowledgeable guests covering a vast array of topics that help families cope with the challenges of the aging process. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, almost 1 in 4 Canadians are caregivers. And almost all of them are unpaid, and they were probably thrown into the role of caregiver with no formal training. It can be stressful, exhausting, and certainly overwhelming. You know, there's a new book called The Care of the Older Person. It's just excellent. And caregiving specialist Claire Webster was a contributor to the book. We wanted to get her perspective. And Claire is the founder and ambassador, McGill Dementia Education Program, and also the founder and president of Caregiver Crosswalk. Claire, welcome back to Life Unrehearsed.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Claire, always enjoy having you on the show. You give such a wonderful perspective from a caregiver's point of view. And I'd love our listeners, if they haven't heard your story, can you tell us your story and how you ended up being such an advocate for caregivers?
I think I was born into it. I mean, I grew up in a home really witnessing my mother take care of my father, who suffered from multiple physical ailments, and, from a young age, watching her take him to the hospital, the challenges of caring for an older person. And then, in my later years, when I had my own, 3 young children, after my father had died in 2005 of congestive heart failure, and not long afterwards, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. But I never knew that that's what it was. My mother was always stressed. My father was, before he passed away, concerned about her behavior, and I kept discounting it as really it was just caregiver stress and all the years of her physically caring for him. And lo and behold, in 2006, in September, after her behavior, nothing to do with memory, but really her behavior was increasingly bad, I finally took her to a neurologist who diagnosed her with Alzheimer's disease. But I wasn't provided with any type of information or education. It was basically, good luck, and information's available on the web. And I was horrified at the lack of information, education. I had 3 young children. I was a sandwich generation caregiver. And the lack of information and education had a significant impact on the quality of care that she did not receive, and as well as a ripple effect on my own health.
You're bringing up such an important point. And could you imagine being told, good luck? And thank goodness we've advanced a little bit more. We have a lot more to advance. And this is why we love having people like you on the show to give us more of an insight. Because, as our population ages, we're seeing the cracks in our healthcare system. We're seeing it every day on the news. It's not getting any better. So how important is it for a caregiver to advocate for their loved ones?
Well, I would say not only to advocate for their loved one, but to advocate for themselves. I'm someone that has also lived with my own health issues throughout my life, and I think that we're afraid to ask questions. If we go to a doctor and we get a diagnosis, we're not feeling well, or we're not getting the answers that we want. People in general are afraid to ask questions, right? To dig further, because we figure, the healthcare system's so busy, they don't have time. But you have to, if you feel that you're not comfortable with the answer that you're getting about your own health or about the person you're caring for, it's important to ask questions. It's important to seek a second opinion. And when you're caring for somebody who has dementia, as the disease evolves, they are not able to communicate and represent themselves. So even more so, you become their voice. And essentially, I had to really become an advocate for my mother to ensure that she received the best quality of care throughout the years of her illness.
Right. And it's such an important point. I think please understand that everyone is trying to advocate, some more so than others, but it's okay to advocate. It's okay to ask those tough questions because other families are doing it. So don't feel bad about it. Obviously, with respect and diplomatically, but please advocate because someone has to speak up for your loved ones, particularly in cognitive situations, Claire, like you've experienced so often, with dementia and Alzheimer's. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Del Vecchio here, and I'm talking with caregiving specialist Claire Webster. Now, Claire, there are individuals just beginning their caregiver journey and others who've been caregiving for years. Knowing now what you know, what advice would you give to caregivers?
Become as educated as possible on the illness. Always be one step ahead. So, for instance, if we're dealing with somebody that has dementia and, this is a disease that evolves, you want to understand what's coming next. You want to be always one step ahead of the illness. Understand the illness. Understand the resources that are available to you. I made the big mistake of saying, oh, that's okay, I'm not there yet. I don't need the support. I can do it myself. You cannot do it yourself. You have to understand what you're dealing with. Be prepared. Don't wait for a crisis to occur before you go out and seek the support, whether it's education, support from community organizations or from private resources. Be prepared.
And, talk about being prepared. One of the important things I always like to bring up, Claire, and you've got great advice for this, when it comes to doctor's visits, preparing for these visits are extremely important. Very often it's the adult child or a spouse that's bringing someone for a doctor's appointment. What should be done to prepare for an appointment, and what would you recommend to caregivers actually during the doctor's appointments with their loved ones?
So I think what people need to understand and realize is most of the time you only have about 10, 15 minutes for the doctor's appointment. So it's important to arrive with a list of the symptoms that you are very concerned about, so really detailed list of symptoms. Arrive with the person's medical history, arrive with the list of medications, and arrive with your questions, because sometimes we get very nervous or intimidated, or we're just, there's so many things that we want to ask, and then our 10 or 15 minutes is up. So just arrive with a written paper that's in front of you with all the information that you want to ask the doctor. And it's very important also that the doctor understands the person's background. They can't make an assessment just based on the physical exam. They really need the information to come from either the patient themselves or their family member.
Such a good point, Claire. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to some of our clients and they're driving home from the doctor's appointment and saying, oh, I should have asked this. Oh, I should have asked that. So just like you're saying, even preparing, even at home, if there's something, a trigger event, something happens, write it down and then head into that doctor's appointment, maybe with a list of notes that have happened over the last couple of months. So you're bringing up some very, very good points. That's the voice of Claire Webster. She's a caregiving specialist, and you're listening to Life Unrehearsed with Matt Del Vecchio. Claire, you experience family conflicts in your line of work all the time, and siblings not getting along, perhaps a history of parent-child conflicts. What advice can you give to families who are experiencing conflicts and having difficulties being on the same page?
Oh boy, it's very, very common, and oftentimes it could be the root is really resentment. So the resentment towards a parent that is now sick, or resentment towards another sibling. I think it's important that everybody really make a plan and talk to each other from the very beginning. Conflicts arise when, let's say, for example, one sibling feels that they're doing everything to take care of mom and dad and the other sibling isn't doing anything, or they haven't updated each other with the same type of information. Denial plays a big role also, because, if somebody is seeing the early symptoms of an illness, but another family member doesn't agree. So it's important to come to a place where everybody feels that they're educated, they understand the process, and that everybody's carrying their weight, to try to share some of the responsibilities. Maybe somebody take care of taking mom or dad to their doctor's appointments or making the appointments. Somebody else take care of managing the finances. Somebody else take care of groceries. But resentment happens when one person feels like they're doing everything and the other person isn't doing anything at all.
Yeah, very good points. And that communication is so important. Claire, we have to head out to traffic, but you talk about self-care, so important in all your presentations and dealing with your clients. You had your own personal challenges to deal with, and you had to overcome them. And when we come back from traffic, we want to ask you for some advice on how important it is for self-care and what you could recommend to avoid burnout. But first, let's head out to the CJD Traffic Center for a traffic update.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Lianas Senior Transition Support, helping you navigate home care and senior residences.
And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Del Vecchio, and I'm talking with caregiving specialist Claire Webster. And Claire, just before traffic, we were talking about self-care. It's so important. You've had your own personal challenges and battles to deal with for several years, and you've had to overcome them. So how important is self-care, and what could you recommend to caregivers who are simply just burnt out?
Don't do what I did. I was a caregiver for 10 years, and I did not give myself permission to take care of myself. And, I call it the cyclone of caregiving. The moment that you become a caregiver, you get swept up in this need to take care of everything, and nobody else can do it but me. And, I represented that, as I mentioned earlier, the sandwich generation, taking care of my 3 kids, my mother, being the best mother, the best wife, the best friend. And I burnt out, and my coping mechanism was drinking copious amounts of wine. And a lot of people think that, once the caregiving years are over, or once my stress is over, I'll be fine. But that's not the case. Even after my mom passed away in 2016, I was still having to unlearn all these habits that I had been using. And so, if you don't take care of yourself, how can you best take care of everybody else? And the biggest reality that I see with caregivers is that you just don't want to give yourself that permission, even if it's to go for a walk or take a break. It's like you feel like you got to go. Unfortunately, inevitably, you will burn out if you don't take a break.
Yeah, and we see that in our world, Claire, all the time. And, something I mentioned before, the role of caregiver is usually a role that you've been thrown into, and it's usually not overnight, right? It just takes over time and increases, and you have to cope with it. And when it becomes overwhelming, then you hit that wall like you did, and people have their different ways of coping mechanisms, and it's very challenging. So yes, take care of yourself, and it's okay to take care of yourself. You're always stressing that, Claire, and I love when you do that, because it is so important.
And I think I'd like to, one thing that I really want to say too is that, in order to heal and to really recover from the burnout, I had to really look at my life and make a decision about what are the people or commitments that were toxic to me, or what did I not want to do. And, years later, I choose everything that I want to do. I choose who I want to spend my time with, who I don't want to spend my time with, what commitments I want to get involved with, and the ones that I don't. And I don't apologize when I can't do something anymore. I really find that we only have one life, and we have to take the best care possible of ourselves.
So true. Listening to Life Unrehearsed, that's the voice of caregiving specialist Claire Webster. Claire, continuing along, you contributed to this amazing book. I suggest everyone look for this, called Care of the Older Person. I believe you wrote a chapter in that. So can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's an amazing book. It's spearheaded by an esteemed group of doctors and other healthcare professionals. And there's over 30 different chapters on various topics relating to aging, frailty, everything to do with caring for an older person. I was invited to write a whole chapter on navigating the journey as a caregiver to a person who's living with dementia. It's available on Amazon. We also have a link to the book on our website at mcgill.ca/dementia. But I really encourage people to pick up a copy. A lot of McGill experts have contributed to the book, and very, very educational and informative.
Yeah, certainly a shout out to a very Montreal influence on this book, although it's sold around the world, and good for you, Claire. In fact, last month I had Dr. José Moret on the show, who also talked a little bit about his perspective from a medical perspective on that. So great book, and good for you for sharing your experiences, and that's Care of the Older person. Claire, you continue to do amazing work, being one of the leaders of the McGill University Dementia Education Program. You guys don't stop. Talk about resources. You've gone from that good luck comment from a decade ago or even more to some wonderful resources, but you've been a driving force behind that. And there is a lack of resources, but it's improving. And you've been a pioneer in getting many of those resources, especially something called the Dementia Companion Guide. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm so thrilled. Thanks to the donation from the Grace Dart Foundation, we have a guide. It's called Dementia, Your Companion Guide. It's available for people to download for free. It is now available in 8 languages: English, French, Spanish, Mandarin, Italian, Portuguese, Greek, and Punjabi. We've also just finished the translation in Ukrainian. And people could just go and download it for free, or you can purchase a printed copy on Amazon for $20. All proceeds go to our program. I'm so incredibly grateful to run the McGill Dementia Education Program with Dr. José Morin and Dr. Serge Gauthier. What started as just some workshops at the university has now grown into really an international program with all kinds of webcasts. McGill Cares, these webcasts, over 80 of them that could be accessed for free at any time. Matt, you've been my guest a couple of times. We also have virtual support groups in collaboration with the Alzheimer's Society of Montreal, and just like a wealth of resources that people could access, for free, in the comfort of their home, really.
Well, I tell you, Claire, I work right across the country with some colleagues of mine, and they see some of the stuff coming out of McGill and what you're doing, and they're amazed, so we're blessed. This is in our backyard, so wonderful work at the McGill University Dementia Education Program. Very quickly, that Dementia Companion Guide, I've read it. It's excellent. If you've got someone, a loved one, or know of someone that could benefit from this, how do you get that Dementia Companion Guide again?
So you go to mcgill.ca/dementia, and that when you come to our homepage, you will see it. You will see, and you just click on that link. And then you just have to select, you'll see the book come up in all of the different 8 languages, and you just select the language, and there you go. You can download it onto your computer. And I believe that there are a few various languages that could also be available at Amazon. And the book is being distributed throughout the hospitals and memory clinics in Montreal. So please, if you are at one of the memory clinics, please ask the doctor if he has a copy of our guide, and you'll be given that for free.
And so this is all for free, even the download and the hard copy?
Everything is for free.
I was at the geriatric division of the Jewish General just last week, saw it there at the reception, and it's great. We're running out of time very, very quickly. You mentioned McGill Cares webcast. How can people see some of these incredible webcasts?
So again, I've produced over 80 of them on a whole wide range of topics with leading healthcare professionals from our province, from McGill. Matt, you've been on talking about transition, and even I've had some, world experts come on. Again, go to mcgill.ca/dementia, and they're available on YouTube. Watch them at your leisure, learn. They're also there to help educate not only the public at large, but healthcare professionals, medical students. So again, everything is for free. That's for us. We wanted to provide as many resources for people as we can, and make sure that it was there for them when they needed it.
Wonderful. Resources galore. Finally, good on you, Claire. Thank you very much. How can our listeners reach you?
So they can reach me either at claire@carecrosswalk.com, or you could send an email to dementia@mcgill.ca.
All right. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
All right. That's caregiving specialist Claire Webster. She's the founder and ambassador of McGill Dementia Education Program and founder and president of Caregiver Crosswalk. Call her up if you need help in your caregiving journey. Thank you for tuning in to Life Unrehearsed. And as a reminder, for all your inquiries or assistance with life transitions, elder care planning, and the senior living industry, it'd be my pleasure to help. You could look me up under Lianas Senior Transition Support. That's Lianas, Lianas, Senior Transition Support. Many thanks to our technical producer, Marco Campagna. Great job, Marco. And you could listen to Life Unrehearsed here on CJD 800 every Saturday at 3 p.m.